Right now on Morning News Now, stuck in the past as the war with Iran wages on. President Trump is keeping his eyesight 2020. In a primetime address, the president continuing to insist the 2020 election was stolen from him, despite offering no evidence to support his claims. The president now declassifying documents that he says show China interfered, all as he pushes Congress to pass his Save America Act.
Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat?
We've got a fact check of the president's speech and other headlines from Washington coming up. Fatal flooding, the death toll in Texas climbing this morning. Record flooding slamming large parts of the state. Search and rescue crews working around the clock to save hundreds as walls of water strand entire neighborhoods. How warning systems installed after last year's catastrophic floods are helping, with the region now bracing for more storms. Smoke and heat, the haze from those Canadian wildfires impacting millions of Americans now facing the worst air quality on the planet. Some health experts saying it's as bad as smoking more than 6 cigarettes a day. We've got tips on how to protect yourself and your family from this toxic air. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off today. We're going to start in Washington, where President Trump appears to be sowing new doubt about election integrity less than 4 months from the midterms. The president delivered a rare primetime address last night on election security. He also declassified documents that he claims reveal election vulnerabilities. That includes accusations that China interfered in the 2020 election, clashing with a previous U.S. intelligence assessment that says otherwise. Mr. Trump has always claimed he won that election, but courts, election experts, and members of the president's first administration have all said there was no widespread voter fraud that would have changed the outcome. NBC's Alice Barr joins us with more on this. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Democrats are slamming the speech as sowing doubt about the upcoming midterms. Republicans largely backing the president's message. But among the critics is retiring GOP Senator Thom Tillis, who said we're on a dangerous path to convincing Americans you cannot count on your election results, while the president argued he's taking on potential vulnerabilities.
Good evening.
This morning's swift reaction to President Trump's primetime address raising doubts about election security.
No country can be great without fair and honest elections.
The president announced the declassification of intelligence reports now posted online that he said revealed vulnerabilities to possible hacking and foreign interference, repeating his long-held claims about electronic voting systems.
They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised.
Though he did not offer any proof that American machines have been compromised. Democrats argue the president is aiming to undercut the upcoming midterm elections that will determine control of Congress and the future of his agenda.
The president is sowing doubt in an election that he knows he's about to lose.
The president accused China of meddling, pointing to a finding that the Chinese obtained voter registration information for tens of millions of Americans, though those files are readily available to purchase and do not include how people actually voted. He did not offer new information that any foreign governments were able to alter the results of the 2020 election or any other.
Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly.
President Trump also made claims about non-citizens being registered to vote, though that's not the same as casting a ballot, which he did not claim happened in election-altering ways. He urged Congress to pass the Save America Elections Overhaul bill that requires proof of citizenship and voter ID, but that Republicans say does not have enough votes to pass the Senate. Election experts say the database that may have been used to analyze those non-citizen voter registries often flags newly naturalized citizens as non-citizens. And again, worth underscoring, while President Trump repeatedly referred to the 2020 election, years of court rulings, recounts, and audits have not found evidence of widespread fraud to overturn his loss to Joe Biden. Joe.
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Here to discuss some of the claims made by President Trump, NBC News senior reporter Jane Tim. I know you were busy on fact-checking duty last night, so let's walk through some of the claims here. First, this allegation of Chinese interference. Do we have any evidence of that? Because part of his argument is that China illicitly acquired these U.S. voter files. But of course, as Jane just pointed out there, as Alice just pointed out there, those are readily available to purchase, including by many American groups.
Yeah, for $485. You can buy Georgia's voter rolls this morning with a credit card and download them to your computer. Voter rolls are publicly available through public records requests or by purchase. Campaigns buy them. Lots of people buy them. So it's unclear how they illicitly, as the president said, were obtained or what they did with them. A lot of the documents he provided are heavily redacted, making it hard for us to evaluate this claim. But there's not any indication to back up what he's saying that they did anything other than obtain these documents and voter rolls and look at them. The same thing that a lot of campaigns do.
Let's get to another point he made. The president said hundreds of thousands of non-citizens are on the voter rolls. First of all, any evidence to back up his numbers? But then the second question, which is perhaps the most important, is there any evidence those people actually voted, which would be the real problem, right?
A handful of non-citizens end up on the voter rolls every year. A couple people try and vote, but it's a very serious crime with a paper trail. So those people are typically caught and prosecuted if they've done this intentionally. People who get on the voter rolls accidentally. You'll often see election officials testify at their immigration hearings that they didn't actually intend to get on those voter rolls. It's usually a mistake. The numbers that he's provided, the administration appears to have taken public voter rolls, which are not as specific as the private voter rolls that states obtain with things like Social Security numbers, and run them through a database that's not designed to evaluate voter rolls, that was there for benefit administration and was reworked by the Trump administration. It's called the SAVE database. And as Alice said, it's been known to have a lot of false positives and flag people as non-citizens who typically are newly naturalized citizens. The numbers that he's provided, there's not enough evidence in what he's shown to say. And I talked to election administrators last night, and they said, if these numbers exist, show us. We want to make our voter rolls more accurate. But it doesn't sound like there's going to be significant changes to voter rolls because of this document.
The president and some of his allies for years now have talked a lot about electronic voting systems. He talked about digital manipulation of ballot results. Walk us through what happens here in America, because still most voting is done on paper ballots. Is that correct? Can you manipulate those? Walk us through this.
Yeah, just about 70% of Americans vote on hand-marked paper ballots. That's the gold standard. And while he talked about digital manipulation in Venezuela, here in America, we have paper ballots that we can audit, and we have a lot of very decentralized election administrators that keep our system safe. So to actually steal an election, actually sort of overturn or change the result, you need an army of people on the ground to do this, the kind of thing that would be caught. We can check our paper ballots, and Lord knows we have checked them many times. Georgia's ballots, for instance, were counted 3 times in the last election, once entirely by hand, and the results are always the same because we can go back to the paper, and that's what is important to do.
The president once again has been pushing for his Save America Act. It's legislation that he thinks will secure elections. Let's be clear, it does not have the votes to get through right now. Remind us, if it did pass, what it would mean for voters. And does this bill actually address some of the concerns that he even raised last night in this speech?
Yeah, the president often changes what he says is in that bill, and the bill has changed many times. But it would do things like documentary proof of citizenship for American voters, as well as voter ID. It's actually a huge burden on most American voters. There's a lot of Americans who do not have their birth certificate in their purse or their passport readily available to give. A lot of people don't have passports. So proving citizenship is what we do know is that there aren't a lot of non-citizens who are trying to vote. And we know there's a lot of Americans who would not be able to vote and exercise the franchise because of a requirement like this.
All right, Jane Tim, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. For the 6th day in a row, the U.S. launched airstrikes against Iran, this time hitting bridges and other key infrastructure. U.S. Central Command says these latest strikes also targeted Iran's coastal surveillance and air defense sites. President Trump says he ordered the strikes hoping to gain more control over the Strait of Hormuz. For the latest, let's bring in NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons, who has the latest. Keir, good morning. Just what can you tell us about this latest round of strikes from the U.S. and the Iranian response?
Well, Joe, we heard them last night, woken 3 in the morning by an explosion, actually multiple explosions. We were woken, so it's difficult to tell how many, here in Doha in Qatar. And then this morning, the Qatari authorities saying that a child was injured by falling debris from an interception. And you're right, it's on both sides. So the US has been targeting bridges leading to Bandar Abbas, which is a port near to the Strait of Hormuz, as well as other locations inside Iran. Iranian authorities saying that 8 have been killed, 20 wounded. Of course, we don't have at NBC News the capacity to confirm a claim like that. The Kuwaitis are saying that they have had a desalination plant, a plant that turns salt water into drinking water, hit, and also that the energy infrastructure has been hit, and the Kuwaiti government there encouraging people to not limit, but just be thoughtful about their use of AC. So that on all sides there are signs of this escalating, as we have been saying throughout this week. And just over, for example, in northern Iraq on the border with Iran, there too reports of attacks, drone strikes, and that some have been killed there in that Kurdish region. So really, in every way, deep concern here that what we're seeing is an escalation and no real indication that either side is getting back to diplomacy.
Hey, Keir, you mentioned the bridges. Iranian news outlets are reporting it was 3 bridges and a train station struck by the U.S. As you mentioned, hard to verify that. What is the U.S. saying about these attacks?
Well, U.S. Central Command is saying that it is degrading Iranian military capability. And as I mentioned, Bandar Abbas is a port near the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranians, particularly, of course, the IRGC, has been targeting and even hitting ships, tankers, in the Strait of Hormuz, and they'll have been using those kinds of locations to do that. And certainly there are major IRGC facilities in that area. So we've talked, haven't we, this week about the fact that the Geneva Convention says that countries should not attack infrastructure that is essential to civilians. But these things do get thought quite carefully about by international lawyers because, of course, take a bridge, for example. Of course, it's important to civilians, but it also can be used as a military supply line, and that's where these things get very difficult to pass, particularly when we are relying on Iran to tell us what's happening. And of course, they have a track record of saying something and then not turning out to be true.
And Keir, quickly, you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. Do we know if ships are getting through it all right now?
No, not really. I mean, there are some with their transponders turned off, but very few. Nothing like as many as we saw, we say it every time, don't we, before this war began with President Trump and Israel launching this war on Iran. So it is notable, really very notable, that the way that this has shifted from a war, a conflict about Iran's nuclear program, about its people rising up and trying to support those people, and where it is now, which is just about trying to, initially at least, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. You know, in previous wars, that would have been called mission creep, Joe.
All right, Keir Simmons, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Back here in Washington, President Trump's pick for Attorney General Todd Blanche met yesterday with victims of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That long-awaited meeting came after day 2 of Blanche's Senate confirmation hearing. Both supporters and critics of Blanche, including those Epstein survivors, got a chance to testify before lawmakers. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Circuit is here to discuss that and more. Julie, these Epstein victims have made it clear they oppose Blanche taking on the role of Attorney General permanently. Walk us through just what we heard from during the testimony yesterday.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. This was day 2 of the confirmation hearings to basically elevate and promote officially Todd Blanche, who's been in this position in an acting capacity for some time since Pam Bondi left her role in the agency. But look, Todd Blanche has been the tip of the spear on this Epstein issue specifically for even longer. Under Bondi, he was trusted essentially with ensuring that the DOJ release all those files, only after Congress, of course, passed a law to compel them to do so. But there's been so much outrage from Epstein's survivors because they say, for example, that some of the documents that were released contained personal information. They also say that not the complete files were released, and they just feel really disheartened by this entire process with the Trump administration's DOJ. Take a listen to a little bit of what we heard from one of the survivors yesterday, Danny Bensky.
We are crime victims. For us, this has never been about politics. It has been about getting justice for the crimes committed against us. Mr. Blanche's actions have destroyed survivors' trust. According to public reporting, Mr. Blanche spent approximately 9 hours meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. He did not even spend 9 minutes meeting with the survivor.
So what Bensky is talking about here is the fact that for 9 months they have been asking the DOJ to meet with them in person to address their issues. But Blanche did meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Epstein's co-conspirator, and she got transferred to a less security, better environment for the rest of her prison sentence, at least at this juncture.
So, Julie, Blanche did end up meeting at least with some of the survivors yesterday. What did both sides have to say about it after? And a key question here, was this encounter enough to satisfy Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who had said he wouldn't vote in favor of Blanche unless he did actually meet with them?
Yeah, I think it's important to note the sequence of these events, right? Back on Wednesday when Todd Blanche was in the seat, yesterday was just character witnesses. That was the part of the confirmation hearing. Dick Durbin, who's the top Democrat on the committee, he tried to get Blanche to say, yes, he will meet with the survivors. And Blanche sort of danced around it, saying that he couldn't without their lawyer's presence. It was an active investigation. Well, yesterday, after Tom Tillis, a Republican on that committee, by the way, a vote that is very much needed for Blanche to actually make it to the full Senate floor so they can vote on him, he said, I'm not going to vote to confirm him out of the committee unless he meets with the Epstein survivors. I've talked to Tom Tillis extensively about this. This is an issue that is very important for him. But Danny Bensky, that same survivor you just heard from, she spoke to our own Hallie Jackson yesterday, and she said it was a check-the-box meeting. It was about half an hour. Blanche essentially told them to start over again at the FBI level, and they felt very disheartened by it.
Julie, let's get to some other news here. We had 8 Maine Senate Democratic candidates facing off last night in a debate. They're trying to replace Graham Plattner after he dropped out. What were the key takeaways from that, and just what comes next in this rather speedy effort to try and replace him?
Oh, but they don't have a lot of time, Joe. Graham Plattner dropped out earlier this month. They essentially have to pick a new nominee to replace him by July 27th. That's a deadline. And next Saturday is when they're holding a convention to do just that. So last night's debate, you see it there on your screen, really crowded field, 90 minutes. It really, the candidates had a hard time distinguishing themselves from one another. That's Nirav Shah on your screen there. He ran for governor. You know, he is perhaps a little bit more centrist than, let's say, a Troy Jackson, who is running as the progressive heir to Plattner. They were talking about ICE. They were talking about Medicare for all. And they've tried to distinguish themselves from Plattner and also position themselves as the Democrat that can beat Susan Collins, who has been in the Senate for decades, in November. I think that's the critical piece here.
Julie Sirkin in Washington, good to have you with us. Thank you. The New York Times is fighting back against the Trump administration's efforts to compel 3 journalists to testify before a federal grand jury. It's part of an investigation the department is conducting into Times reporting on security issues involving the president's new Air Force One. On Wednesday, the news organization filed a motion to try and quash those subpoenas, claiming it violated its employees' First Amendment rights. In a statement, the outlet's top newsroom lawyer said in part, these subpoenas were brought in bad faith to punish the Times for its coverage. We are going to court to defend our journalists' rights to report freely on the administration. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now with more on this. Danny, good morning. So Trump administration officials said they served the subpoenas to uncover who leaked classified information. They say the goal was not to target and intimidate journalists. Walk us through what the road ahead is now going to look like for those journalists.
The road will move pretty quickly. A judge will decide the issue, and the key issue here is whether or not to quash or limit a subpoena, a grand jury subpoena. And then if the journalists are forced to attend, they have a difficult choice: either testify or refuse. And if they refuse, they can be held in contempt, and that includes fines. And yes, it can even include jail.
How unusual is it for the Justice Department to subpoena journalists at the beginning of a leak investigation like this? I mean, what's different about this case compared with perhaps others in the past?
It's not unusual. In fact, by definition, a grand jury investigation comes really at the beginning of an investigation. So it's not unusual to subpoena witnesses to a grand jury early in the investigation. What is unusual is that the DOJ has traditionally avoided only subpoenaed journalists as a last resort, as a policy. Instead, they go after the actual people who know stuff, witnesses, leakers, or people who know the leakers. Traditionally, they've avoided getting to journalists only unless they absolutely need to have them testify.
Let's talk about, from a procedural standpoint, just what comes next. We've heard some of the New York Times argument here. Does the Times have a strong legal argument?
This is an uphill battle, but here's the thing. The Times' strongest argument really isn't the First Amendment. It's bad faith. And you already covered this issue, that the Times is going to argue, look, we're being punished for our coverage. That may be a stronger argument because bad faith applies to all subpoenas. The area of this reporter's privilege is really a murky area of the law and a murky area of Supreme Court precedent. So the stronger argument is that you're punishing us for reporting on you rather than we have some special privilege as journalists, which it's not entirely certain what, if anything, that privilege is.
Journalists certainly keeping a close eye on this case. Danny Savalos, thank you so much. Days of relentless rain in Texas causing catastrophic flooding. It has left at least 2 people dead, and more than 200 people have had to be rescued. This is the same part of the state that experienced devastating flooding last year. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has the details on the ongoing rescue efforts.
The desperate efforts to rescue families trapped in another historic hill country flood. The Guadalupe River again pushing a deadly surge of water downstream.
When they talk about a wall of water, it is literally a wall of water.
First responders battling their way through black water to reach those trapped in the middle of the night. Rescuing Robert Shelton and his family from their flooded home in Kerrville.
Within a blink of an eye, it was already waist level, and then the door broke open and more water came rushing in.
He says they sheltered in the attic for more than 2 hours until rescuers could save them.
I was scared the house was going to break apart.
Daylight revealing the heart-sinking scope of yet another disaster here in Texas. 2 people are dead, more than 70 already rescued from the waters. It's the second 1,000-year flood in just over 1 year. The devastated community still reeling from the unprecedented 4th of July flood last year that killed 119 people in Kerr County alone.
It happened again. Unbelievable.
A memorial dedicated to the victims of last year's floods unveiled just 2 weeks ago, now underwater. The major highways left impassable in and out of the area. The water swelling into homes here, leaving some, like Carolyn Lampy, unsure whether they'll have a home left.
Well, my husband is fixing to be 90 years old, so this is really, really hard on him. He's having a really difficult time wrapping his head about maybe losing everything, you know, at age 90.
Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
Floodwaters aren't the only weather concern this morning, as that smoke from those Canadian wildfires continues to spread south and east. Meteorologist Andrea Romero is following that threat for us. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, we're going to be talking about those air quality alerts that are stretching all the way from Minnesota to Virginia. We're talking about unhealthy to hazardous conditions as far as that air quality, with all that smoke from the Canadian wildfires just coming down into the region. In fact, if we look at the air quality index, we can see those really high numbers in Duluth, in Chicago, Cleveland, and even Pittsburgh. So if you suffer from respiratory problems, you want to take care today and try to limit that outdoor activity. This this wildfire smoke will continue to move eastward throughout the day today into the weekend. It'll begin to thin out, and conditions are expected to improve in the next couple of days. Now, talking about that flooding that's impacting parts of south central, southwestern Texas, we can see some heavy rain this morning and falling over that saturated ground. We have flash flood warnings up in the region. We have flood watches up basically for the whole state, and we're expecting intense rainfall rates this morning all the way from the Rio Grande into the Edwards Plateau, the Concho Valley. We're talking about 2 to 4 inches per hour, so we're still expecting more rain in addition to what's already falling, and the flash flood risk will continue through tomorrow morning. The heaviest rain will be falling near Davis Mountains, and of course that flash flood risk will extend into the Four Corners regions, the southwest, due to that monsoonal pattern that will continue to bring heavy rainfall, the chance of thunderstorms to that area. Now, we're also concerned with the threat of some severe weather in the northeast, the upper Midwest, the mid-Atlantic this weekend. We have a storm system that could be bringing the possibility of tornadoes, maybe even damaging hail and winds to the area. Bringing that rain will help dissipate the smoke, but it can bring that severe risk from Massachusetts all the way into Indiana, and it will clear out by Sunday just in time for that big game that we're all looking forward to on Sunday for game time. Sunny and breezy conditions for the World Cup with temperatures in the 80s, and we're expecting no smoke. Let's hope that forecast stays that way. Joe, back to you.
No kidding. If it does, that's a great forecast for the final. Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, still fighting as we continue to track the fires in Canada. Wildfire survivors in Los Angeles say they're still fighting to get insurance money to rebuild their homes. The problems they say they're facing more than a year after the devastation. Up first, though, we're going across the pond to Britain, which is about to get a new prime minister. So can this one stay in the job? What to know next. Welcome back. Britain is about to get its 7th prime minister in just 10 years. Andy Burnham has just been confirmed as leader of the Labour Party. Then he'll formally become prime minister on Monday after meeting with King Charles. President Trump has already called Burnham extremely liberal. Burnham, for his part, has been sharply critical of the American president. Recently, relations between President Trump and the outgoing prime minister, Keir Starmer, have grown more strained over issues like Iran and energy policy. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from London with what this leadership change could mean for what's known as the special relationship between the U.S. and U.K. Raf, good morning. Many Americans may not be familiar with Andy Burnham. He was most recently the mayor of Greater Manchester, where he was known as the King of the North. So we know he's a fan of bands like Oasis and the Smiths. But what else should we know about him?
Well, Joe, good morning. Andy Burnham is 56 years old. He had kind of a meteoric rise in British national politics back in the early 2000s. He served in the cabinet, and he ran twice to be the leader of the centre-left Labour Party. He lost both times, and after losing the second time, he did something kind of unexpected. He quit national politics. He moved back to the north of England. He became the mayor of Manchester, and he went through something of a rebrand. He got rid of the suits and ties. He's known for wearing black T-shirts. And he cultivated this kind of more authentic feeling, man of the people presence on social media. But he has always been ambitious. And as Keir Starmer, the current prime minister's popularity has collapsed, Burnham has stepped in. He has just now become the leader of the Labour Party. He will become prime minister on Monday. And the big question now is, will that kind of authentic feeling approach to local politics translate to national politics? And how will it play out on the world stage, where Britain is, you know, a nuclear power, a member of the UN Security Council, and a G7 country? Jeff. So
President Trump and Andy Burnham have already traded some sharp words. They don't appear to agree on much politically, being on opposite ends of that spectrum. They're going to have to perhaps find a way to work together. What are you hearing about how their relationship could take shape?
Yeah, Joe, so these are two men who have never met each other as far as we know, but they've had nothing nice to say so far. Burnham hasn't really spelled out his foreign policy views. He has said when it comes to the United States, he seeks a good relationship with the U.S., but that he is prepared to stand up to President Trump if Britain's interests demand it. He has been very critical of Trump in the past about January 6th. He's talked about how he hopes British politics doesn't, in his words, become kind of toxic and divisive the way that American politics is. President Trump was asked about Andy Burnham in the Oval Office a couple weeks ago. He was pretty frank. He said, I know nothing about this guy. He said he's the mayor of a town, apparently. People from the city of Manchester would take some issue of that. He believes that Burnham is pretty liberal. That is a relatively fair assessment. Burnham is positioning himself as to the left of Keir Starmer, the outgoing prime minister. But we will see how these two world leaders work together. Jeff?
We have to talk about the fact, Britain has gone through 6 prime ministers in the last decade. The country's facing, like so many, some big economic challenges. Real quick here, just what are Burnham's biggest priorities as he now takes office?
Yeah, fundamentally, Joe, economic growth in this country has been pretty badly stalled for a long time. It hasn't been helped by Brexit, the UK leaving the European Union. There is real impatience among voters to feel like standards of living are rising. Burnham says that he understands that sense of urgency. 2 big priorities. He says he's going to build a lot more houses in a country where there is a severe housing shortage. He also says that he's going to move power away from here in London to local governments in cities like Manchester, like Birmingham, and he says that he hopes that more local government will lead to economic growth. Jeff?
All right, Raf Sanchez, thank you so much. Back here in the U.S., there is developing news in the death of Nolan Wells in Mississippi. A new timeline based on GPS data reviewed by NBC News is shedding light on the hours before the 18-year-old disappeared off Horn Island, including the movements of the boat that he was on with friends. There are also new questions about why his cell phone was left behind. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist has the latest.
State records revealing new details about the day Nolan Wells disappeared. The 18-year-old went to Horn Island off the Mississippi coast in a boat with friends on July 4th. A timeline obtained by NBC News through a records request shows the boat departed for Horn Island at 9:56 a.m. and arrived just over an hour later. It remained there until 4:30 p.m. At 4:31, the boat was towed for nearly 3 miles at a very low speed. It returned to the mainland at 5:54 p.m. A mom of one of the friends who traveled on the boat wrote online that the group left around 4:30 because their boat malfunctioned and that Nolan decided to stay behind.
How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come?
The records include audio of a phone call for help the group placed around 4 p.m.
What do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
That night, Nolan's mother called police to say he was missing. A park ranger found his body along the shoreline 2 days later. Melissa Miller spent the 4th of July with her own group of friends on Horn Island, sharing videos of dozens of boats anchored as she approached that morning.
The weekend of the 4th of July was really busy.
And as questions swirl about why Nolan's phone was left on his friend's boat, according to his family, Miller and others tell NBC News it happens often at the island.
After they're taking their pictures, and then they leave their phone there and jump back in.
The sheriff's office here is still investigating Nolan's death, and they're still asking people who were on Horn Island on July 4th to come forward with any video or pictures that they may have. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you. Coming up, wildfire worries. Millions of Americans remain under air quality alerts this morning as that wildfire smoke makes its way south from Canada. The areas hit the hardest, plus some tips on how to protect yourself and your family from the toxic air. Next. We are back with an in-depth look at the growing concerns over all that smoky air blanketing states from Minnesota to New England. Those hazy skies are sparking warnings from health experts yet again today. Stay indoors as much as possible. This morning, tens of millions of people are waking up to hazardous air quality alerts. The smoke from these Canadian wildfires making some city skylines hard to recognize. And now meteorologists say it could take weeks before the skies clear up. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa reports.
A smoky cloak of misery covering millions across the U.S. A thick haze swallowing iconic landmarks like the Empire State Building in New York and Chicago's Navy Pier Ferris wheel along Lake Michigan.
It's insane here in Chicago. The smoke is so thick we can smell it through these masks, and officials today pulled lifeguards from these beaches, just pleading with people to stay inside.
Multiple Midwestern states now breathing the worst air in the world.
I've been pressing into my eyes because it's just like smoke.
It's hurting your eyes.
Yes, and you could smell it.
I was literally going, taking big, deep breaths, like every breath felt heavy.
In New York City, people masking up.
Right now, the air quality is at a point that we have not seen since 2023.
The culprit then and now, wildfires in Canada. This stunning video shows the smoke there from above. More than 100 fires deemed out of control. Officials stressing the health dangers even for those without respiratory issues.
At unhealthy levels, everyone, not just people with asthma and heart conditions, not just older adults, everyone may feel health effects.
Dr. Carly Hampshire warning our Aaron McLaughlin.
Spending one day in poor air quality like this has often been compared to the equivalent of smoking about 7 cigarettes.
And back here in Chicago, as I took a picture of the city's smoky skyline, my iPhone assumed my lens was dirty. Danger lurking in the haze overhead, hovering across America.
So as far as families and people across these affected areas, the ultimate guidance, and this will shock no one, is to not go outside if you don't have to, or at least limit your time outside. Definitely consider wearing masks, especially if you're in an area that looks like this. I mean, here in Chicago, the smoke is so thick, you can barely even see the skyline. Back to you.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins us now with some tips on just how to protect yourself and your family from this smoky, toxic air. Dr. Patel, good morning. Let's start with these air quality alerts across the upper Midwest, the Northeast. We're seeing them on our phones. The advice we heard there, stay indoors as much as possible. What are some of the long-term health risks if people do breathe that hazardous air?
Yeah, Joe, you might think that it's only to your lungs. Studies have shown that long-term effects of this type of smoke exposure over years is actually quite damaging to the heart as well. So we know that this is not just about your lungs and what you breathe in, but it's really about the metabolic effect. Obviously, if you have asthma or existing heart disease, it can make that even worse. And all of this can add up to increased mortality or basically premature death. So we take this very seriously. And I just want to point out, even if you go outside and you see or you don't see or you don't smell anything, don't be deceived. We're seeing air quality levels even without that presence. It's the small particles that you can't see that result in these long-term health effects.
Let's talk about what people can do to protect themselves. Yesterday, I took out a mask and then I was in the grocery store. Someone actually came up to me and said, should I be wearing a mask right now? What is the advice you're giving to people?
Yeah, so the first thing is to actually understand what your local air quality is, because this is very local. You already covered, Maggie talked about much of the country that's been affected. You can go on a resource called airnow.gov, AIRNOW.gov. That way you can see what your actual local, down to your zip code, air quality is. And as you heard the mayor of New York say, that it's not just people with heart disease that can have an effect or lung disease. If you see air quality in that red zone, it doesn't matter who you are. It's very unhealthy. And I would absolutely recommend pulling out, buying those KN95 or N95 masks that we talked about so much, Joe, during COVID. There's a reason we talked about it during COVID, because those really are one of the few sets of masks that can restrict those particles that you can't see from coming into your body. So a high quality mask matters. Just raising, I've seen people raising, like, putting a handkerchief or doing something around their nose. That's not enough. So you need to do that if you go outside. And then when you're at home, I'm going to give you a very simple framework. Shut it, seal it, and recirculate it. So if you can shut the door of the room, you can use a wet rolled towel at the bottom of a door. You can seal the areas around a window with, if you got nothing else, duct tape. And then if you've got an air conditioning unit, just make sure it's recirculating air, not pulling in air from the outside. And there's a lot of hacks on how to do that online if you need to figure that out.
Yeah, because it is bugging a lot of people indoors, too, who aren't going outside. Real quick, we do want to get to another medical headline while we have you. Yesterday, the FDA approved a new pill that can help lower cholesterol in adults. Just walk us through what it is, how it's different from other medications already on the market.
Yeah, there are other medications on the market. The ones that most Americans have heard of are called statins, cholesterol-lowering drugs. Those are oral. And then there are injectable cholesterol-lowering drugs for a specific type of high cholesterol that's very, very high or can have a genetic component to it. And what we saw today released by Merck is a pill version of that injectable drug. So it's a big game changer because obviously pills are easier to take. But on top of that, there are several phase 3 trials that demonstrated as high as a 61% reduction in the bad cholesterol or the LDL. And that's definitely a game changer. Now, here's the caveat. It can cost about $300 a month. And it also has yet to show that it can prevent longer-term cardiac outcomes, but those studies are going on right now. So basically, we've got now a full armament. I just want to make sure Americans get screened so they can get their cholesterol checked and protect their heart, knowing we've got a lot more tools available.
Important reminder there, Dr. Patel. Good to have you with us. Thank you. Coming up, the cost of denial as we track the haze above the Midwest and Northeast. Wildfire survivors on the West Coast say they are still fighting for insurance money more than a year after the devastating Los Angeles fires. We've got the details next. We are back with our series, The Cost of Denial, where we investigate the challenges people face with insurance. Usually these stories revolve around issues related to health care. But for this investigation, NBC News spoke to some Los Angeles wildfire survivors who say they're still fighting to get insurance money to rebuild their homes. Well, now those families say they feel pressured to move back into houses that are toxic and unsafe. Our Liz Kreutz has more.
A year and a half after the Eaton fire, Chauncey and Libby Godwin are still displaced from their Altadena home. They wear masks when inside, their living room just as it was when they evacuated in January last year, the Christmas tree still standing.
It's hard to believe that it's real.
The couple says their house isn't safe to live in due to the smoke damage, but that they feel pressured by their insurer, Farmers Insurance, to move back.
They're kind of cartoonish in their villainy. It really feels to me that like they're sitting behind their desks, twirling their mustaches.
After months of back and forth, the Godwins say Farmers has now agreed to pay for at least part of the belongings inside their house. So far, roughly $150,000. But the bigger fight is over the home itself. Testing the Family Commission found confirmation of persistent carcinogenic and toxigenic residues in their house and recommended full interior demolition down to the studs, estimated to cost more than $1 million. But Farmers rejected that recommendation after its own testing suggested the house could mostly be cleaned, paying the family some $80,000 for cleaning and repairs of the home instead.
How much longer are you both willing to fight?
We'll fight for as long as it takes.
Yeah. Oh, they found the right ones. If they want to fight, we'll fight.
But the Godwins are now among the 38% of LA fire survivors who report they'll soon or already have run out of their additional living expenses, money provided by insurance for temporary housing, known more commonly as ALE. Without ALE money, they're left paying for the mortgage on their home and a rental at the same time.
Looking at our rent and looking at how long it's going to take, it's an entirely frightening situation.
Farmers says it cannot comment on individual claims, but tells NBC News in part, our goal is to pay claims quickly and fairly, taking into account the circumstances of the loss and the terms of the policy.
If they can force us to cave, they don't have to pay for it. And that's what this is all about.
In fact, just next door, like the Godwins, John Most is also fighting with Farmers Insurance.
The window was melted shut.
Over whether his smoke-damaged home needs structural remediation or can just be cleaned. But unlike the Godwins, the Most family, including 3 young kids, made the difficult decision to move back in.
What reservations did you have about moving your family back in here?
For my wife and I, our biggest was, of course, the contamination.
He says last year, Farmers accused the family of delaying and prematurely cut them off from their remaining ALE. They were given $135,000 for cleaning and repairs of the house, a fraction of their policy limit, and far short of the $1.5 million the family's contractor told them would be needed to restore the home.
We said, okay, we need to try to get the house back in order, use what little money we received, and the rest we will do our best out of pocket.
Farmers won't comment on their case, but in a court filing denied each and every allegation made in a lawsuit the family has now filed against the insurer. In the meantime, John's left with the fear his house could be making his family sick.
We hope we did it right. I hope we did enough. Because don't want to go down there.
Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Altadena.
Coming up, the final countdown. Spain and Argentina gearing up to face off in the World Cup final at New York, New Jersey Stadium this Sunday. What to expect as Argentina looks to keep its winning streak next. We are back with all the excitement that's building just 2 days before the World Cup final. On Sunday, Spain and Argentina will go head-to-head for the honor of lifting the iconic World Cup trophy. This tournament started with 48 teams that were carrying with them the dreams of fans from around the globe. Over the past month, the beautiful game's biggest stage showcased passion and heroics. You've seen heartwarming Cinderella stories and jaw-dropping come-from-behind victories. Looking at you, Argentina. Now all the drama boils down to just two teams fighting to be crowned world champs, attaining soccer immortality. Reporter Adam Harding from NBC New York has been talking to fans of both teams. He joins us live from the site of Sunday's final, known over the past month as New York, New Jersey Stadium. Adam, good morning.
Joe, what an incredible intro. Good morning to you. Good morning, soccer fans. They are just loving this tournament. It is so hard to believe that it is quickly coming to an end. Just 2 days to go. If you didn't know this, Sunday's finale is set to be the most watched televised program of the year. More than 1 billion people set to tune in from around the world. And fans of the final two clubs say they are more than ready.
Woo! Let's go, Spain!
FIFA fever taking over the streets of New York.
It's a long journey. We came from Virginia, planes, trains, automobiles. Found a place to get dressed a couple blocks away, carry this contraption.
5.5 weeks, 104 matches stretching across 16 cities and 3 countries. It's all down to this, Spain versus Argentina. The two teams getting in those final practices this week as fans make their predictions.
I think that Spain's gonna win on Sunday. Big Argentina fan. I don't wanna, jinx it, but I am 100% confident they're gonna win.
This was the view from Times Square after Argentina's thrilling come-from-behind win Wednesday. They won the last World Cup title 4 years ago, and fans wonder if Sunday's match could be Lionel Messi's last go of it.
He's the GOAT. If you look at all the statistics, he has the most goals, most assists, he's the best passes, most opportunities. Look at all the statistics throughout the whole World Cup. Everything is Messi, 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 Messi.
This will also be the first ever halftime show in the competition's history, with stars like Justin Bieber, Madonna, Shakira, and BTS set to perform.
Even the fact that you're talking about last World Cup having 1.5 billion viewers, which is 13 Super Bowls in one night. So the scale of it is extraordinary. And I think that this is really the world's moment where the whole world is united.
It is just incredible, Joe, when you hear how big of an audience they are expecting for Sunday's match. Hard to believe it's almost over. We do want to let you know that President Trump expected to be among the 80 or so thousand fans at the stadium. He'll be handing out the trophy to the winning club. The only question now, will it be Argentina or will it be Spain? Fans can't wait. We'll send things back to you, Joe.
With 13 Super Bowls worth of viewing audience watching. Adam, thank you so much. He's going to do it for this hour of morning news now. But don't go anywhere. The news continues right now. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, the race to rescue people in central Texas from catastrophic floods. So far, at least 2 people are dead. Well, up north, heat and haze are the big headlines. Smoke from those Canadian wildfires has millions in major cities like New York catching their breath. So when might we see some clearer skies? We got your full weekend forecast coming up. Also this morning, tip of the iceberg. We may finally have an answer to where exactly cyclosporiasis, the illness churning stomachs from coast to coast, got its start. The FDA now eyeing a possible link to iceberg lettuce produced by a major national supplier. One of their buyers, Taco Bell. How the fast food giant is reacting and how you can keep yourself and your family healthy. Plus, it all comes down to this weekend, the World Cup finals set to go down in New York. Does Spain have what it takes to topple superstar Lionel Messi and his powerhouse squad from Argentina? We've got a preview. And later in the hour, director Christopher Nolan's decades-long odyssey to bring a riveting work of literature into modern life on the silver screen. Our critics calling it a triumph or a Trojan horse. It's out today, and the reviews are in. Let's start this hour with the latest round of severe weather that is pushing its way across the country. 108 million people from the Northeast to the upper Midwest are waking up under air quality alerts. It's because of the thick smoke from those wildfires burning in Canada. That haze is blanketing much of the country, just making it difficult to breathe. As for the Southeast and Plains states, they're still baking under that heat dome, which is pushing temperatures nearly 15 degrees higher than normal in that part of the country. And down in Texas, flood watches are in effect. The storm is dumping between 2 and 4 inches of rain an hour. It's causing life-threatening flooding in the already waterlogged region. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin starts us off with the latest air quality alerts. She's in Hoboken, New Jersey. Erin, good morning.
Joe, good morning. It's still pretty bad here in the New York City area. Check out those hazy conditions. On a normal day, you'd be able to see the GW Bridge over that way. Experts say that breathing this air is the equivalent to smoking several cigarettes if you stayed in these conditions all day long. This morning, more than 100 million Americans are waking up to unhealthy air.
This morning, toxic smoke suffocating a large swath of the country after traveling from the forest fires in Canada, forcing more than 100 million Americans to either mask up or stay inside. Late Thursday, first Detroit, then Chicago clocked the worst air quality in the world.
It's wild because when you look outside, you think it's fog and it's completely covered the city, and it's smoke because when you walk outside, it burns, it stings a little bit.
In response, officials in Chicago closed local beaches. In New York City, public libraries and police precincts handed out free masks.
I'm most definitely worried about it because I struggle with, health problems.
The smoke also impacting sports games across the country, including forcing an early start to the Mets-Phillies game in Philadelphia.
Supposed to start this game at 7:10. We've been moved up 1 hour because of the conditions outside.
Over in Chicago, the dangerous smoke forcing an MLS soccer match to be postponed. Similar scenes playing out across Ohio, Minnesota, and Michigan. The haze triggering a code purple in parts of Pennsylvania and Maryland, which indicates very unhealthy air. Making matters worse, a brutal heat wave with soaring temperatures, making life miserable for folks working outdoors in Michigan.
Stay hydrated, sit in the AC, take a minute or two for a break in the heat.
Health experts warn the extreme temperatures combined with smoke are a double blow to the body.
Stay indoors. Turn on whatever air filtration system you have.
What symptoms should people be looking out for?
Shortness of breath, chest pain. We see effects all over the body.
And experts say the health impacts from wildfire smoke comes down to particles that are 1/30th the width of a human hair. That is so small, Joe. It's enough to permeate the lungs and get into the bloodstream and cause all kinds of health complications potentially, which is why health experts say you should be really paying attention to any unusual symptoms. Joe.
Right, thank you, Aaron. In front of a smoky, hazy New York skyline. Let's turn now to that flooding in Texas. This morning, even more rain is forecast there, adding to the urgency of the high water rescues already underway. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has been covering the unfolding disaster. Once again, he's in Uvalde, Texas, where many of the rivers are already overflowing. Ryan, good morning.
Well, Joe, good morning. And you see the power of that water and the mangled trees and debris behind me. We learned yesterday that these waters took the life of a man here in Uvalde, a second victim after a man was found dead near Comfort, Texas, which saw record high water. And yet, Joe, despite yet another historic flood here in Texas, it's clear this time the state saved countless lives.
This morning, rescue and recovery efforts intensifying as record flooding continues to overwhelm Central Texas.
When they talk about a wall of water, it is literally a wall of water.
At least 2 are dead and more than 200 rescued. It comes just a year after the flood on the 4th of July killed 119 people here, including 25 campers and 2 counselors at Camp Mystic. Mangled highways like this completely blocking traffic in and out of Uvalde.
We have communities in the Uvalde area that are cut off right now.
Inside the city, the water walling off entire neighborhoods. First responders rappelling down from high above to rescue this young girl, her family, and their 2 dogs, hoisting them to safety on a helicopter. But behind the dark clouds, a silver lining.
Having accurate warnings in time saved lives today.
Local leaders praising the state's quick action to rewrite the rules of flood safety in the year since the last catastrophe, pushed in large part by the families of the Camp Mystic victims. While much of the floods came in the middle of the night again, some residents said they received more warnings compared to last year.
People were more situationally aware. The fire departments were fully staffed. The emergency operations center was already up and running. So all the stuff that we took time to build last time immediately was in place.
The family of Lila Bonner writing, "Our deepest prayer is that the progress made over the last 365 days saved lives today. The legacy of our daughter and the Heavens 27 is a legacy of heroes." Still, Texans bracing for more.
We are not out of this scenario yet.
It was surreal. It was gut-wrenching to reach out to some of those camps that we know along the Guadalupe River as soon as we got the news of that wall of water heading down toward them yesterday, Joe. But I'll say it was so encouraging. We met many of them after they were destroyed last year, and this year they told us, yes, our campers are safe and sound. They are high and dry. We may be waiting out a storm, but we're doing it together. Joe.
That is a relief. All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Clearly a lot going on right now, so let's get a check on your morning news now. Weather, Andrea Romero, keeping an eye on those air quality alerts for us. Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. We have this morning over 100 million people under air quality alerts stretching all the way from Minnesota down into Virginia. And the source of those hazy skies, that unhealthy air, of course, are those Canadian wildfires that continue to burn in Ontario. We have more than a dozen massive fires that remain still out of control. Nearly 1.5 million acres have already burned in the area. Now, right now, the worst air quality is across the Great Lakes region. We can see those high numbers, very unhealthy and hazardous conditions that are stretching all the way from Duluth into Green Bay, Grand Rapids, Detroit. Those numbers are really elevated. If you suffer from respiratory problems, you want to take care and be careful. The core of the plume is now across Pennsylvania and parts of New Jersey. The smoke will be shifting south, and we're expecting this high pressure system to push the worst of the smoke into the D.C. area today as a warm front begins to clear the smoke from west to east. Now, for this weekend, for Saturday, we have this heavy round of rain that's going to be pushing the smoke out of the northeast and clearing the skies. And we do have another round of smoke possible late Saturday and Sunday into the Midwest. As far as the storms. It continues to rain over parts of central Texas. We can see all that rain in San Angelo, in Brady right now. We have flash flood warnings. We're expecting still 2 to 4 inches per hour that can be falling into that area where we have those flash flood warnings. And we're expecting the heaviest rain this weekend into the Davis Mountains into tomorrow morning, and the flash flood risk will continue in that area as other parts of the country, well, are dealing with extreme heat. Here we have 18 million people impacted from the northern Rockies into the mid-Atlantic. Joe, back to you.
Bit of everything. All right, Andrea, thank you so much. This morning, Iran claims it attacked a U.S. military command center in Qatar, knocking out a long-range radar system and several refueling aircraft. For the latest, let's bring in NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons. He's in Qatar, joins us with more. Keir, good morning. What more can you tell us about Iran's claims about the attack and just what they say is the extent of the damage?
We heard explosions last night, Joe, here in Doha in Qatar, about 3 in the morning. I can't tell you how many. They woke us up. Now, this morning, the Qataris say that they intercepted Iranian flying munitions and that some debris that fell hurt a child. No confirmation of those claims that you're talking about by Iran. Kuwait, though, is saying that there was a fire at a energy and desalination plant. A desalination plant, of course, takes salt water from the sea and turns it into drinking water. It's vital for communities in this part of the world. Kuwait says that was struck, there was a fire, so certainly there clearly is an attempt by the Iranians to, again, hit infrastructure in this neighboring region, countries that are partners or allies of the United States. And again, on the other side, we're now hearing from Iran that bridges and airport was hit by U.S. Central Command strikes overnight. Around 7 or more killed by those strikes, and those bridges on their way to Bandar Abbas, Joe, which is a port near to the Strait of Hormuz. So CENTCOM saying it's continuing to try to target the Iranian military capability, including its capability to strike ships in the Strait.
Is the U.S. military saying anything about any of this, the Iran attacks or these U.S. strikes?
Well, it does say that it wants to try to degrade Iranian ability. It has actually overnight issued a video of U.S. Marines rappelling onto a ship. So that shows the efforts to interdict where the U.S. military believes that a ship is trying to break the naval blockade that President Trump reimposed in the Strait of Hormuz this week in response to Iran's targeting ships. I mean, ultimately, this whole thing now, as we have talked about, revolves around the question of which side, the US and its allies and partners, or Iran, should be in charge of the Strait of Hormuz, and a deep, deep disagreement over exactly what was agreed to in that memorandum of understanding.
All right, Keir Simmons in Doha. Keir, thank you so much. In Washington, President Trump delivered a rare primetime address from the White House last night. Mr. Trump fueled doubt about election integrity 4 months before the midterms. The president declassified documents claiming to show election vulnerabilities and claimed China interfered in the 2020 elections. That is at odds with a previous U.S. intelligence assessment that said there was no evidence of that. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has more from the White House. Gabe, good morning.
Joe, good morning. The president has questioned election integrity before, but the claims are taking on a new urgency with the midterms less than 4 months away. Despite vast evidence to the contrary, the president is now laying out a wide-ranging conspiracy theory about his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden. Overnight, President Trump ramping up his claims about election security. The White House posting newly declassified but heavily redacted documents.
Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it.
The president describing efforts by China to access U.S. voter rolls, though much of that information is already publicly available. While China denies it, Trump alleges the country targeted his 2020 campaign.
They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win.
Adding that members of what he calls the deep state tried to cover it up.
And our intelligence agency worked to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling.
But one of the documents released overnight also refers to Chinese efforts to target Joe Biden's campaign. And for years, U.S. intelligence assessments have shown that American voting systems have been a target of foreign adversaries. Years of recounts, audits, lawsuits, and reviews have not found evidence of enough fraud to overturn Trump's 2020 loss.
Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly.
The president also pointing to a review of state voter rolls and public records by the Department of Homeland Security.
They identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections.
But election experts say the database that may have been used for that analysis often flags newly naturalized citizens as non-citizen voters. Meanwhile, the president is pushing Congress to pass sweeping legislation known as the Save America Act that would require voter ID and proof of citizenship.
How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat?
The bill faces long odds in the Senate, in part because of concerns it would make it harder for Americans to vote.
What we're going to do, if we continue down this path, is to convince the American people that you can't count on your election results. And that is dangerous.
Someone who was not in the room while the president made his case overnight was his longtime technical advisor and teleprompter operator, Gabriel Perez. He's now on unpaid leave after allegedly making more than $90,000 on the prediction market Kalshi from placing bets on the president's past remarks. We have not been able to reach him for comment, Joe.
All right, Gabe, thank you so much. It has been nearly 2 weeks since the mysterious death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells. Now, new GPS information is shedding light on the boat trip that ended with his disappearance over the 4th of July weekend. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joins us with the latest from Mississippi. Aaron, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. That boat traveled about an hour away from the coast here out to Horn Island with Nolan Wells and other people on board. NBC News has obtained new GPS information that is providing more details about the timeline of that day, really painting a clearer picture for us of how the day unfolded. And it comes as Nolan Wells' mother is sharing a new heartbreaking message online. This morning, we're learning more about the Independence Day boat trip Nolan Wells and his friends took to Mississippi's Horn Island. As part of a records request to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, NBC News obtained GPS information for the boat. The records show it departed from a private boat launch at 9:56 a.m., arriving at the island by 11:14 and staying there until 4:30 p.m. In audio of a call around that time to a private towing company obtained from the same records request, the caller explains a mechanical issue with the boat.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
The towing company dispatched reaching out to a local captain for help.
It sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island, and he's saying the boat is sinking. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in.
Records then show the boat being towed slowly from about 4:31 until 5:25 before getting back to normal speed. The boat then returned to its original location at 5:44 without Nolan Wells. Melissa Miller was at Horn Island on the 4th. She says there were hundreds of boaters there for the holiday.
It's just a big community. Everyone goes out there and, has a good time.
She also says it's normal to leave cell phones on boats and that currents at the northwest corner of the island can be treacherous.
Like you can go out there just innocently and next thing you know, the water's, like kind of sucking you in, throwing you back out.
After speaking with one of the friends on the boat, Nolan's concerned mother reported him missing to police.
Please report her 18-year-old son, Nolan Wells, missing last seen at 3 on Horn Island.
His body was found on July 6th. His mother struggling as she plans his funeral, posting on Facebook,
"This loss, this grief, this pain, it's different. It's insurmountable."
Now, there is one parent in this area who's posted online that there are some of Nolan's friends who've been receiving threatening messages. We do know the FBI is investigating threats connected to this case. And this is all as Nolan's mother is asking everyone to remain peaceful. She's repeatedly put that message out there as she plans to hold his funeral now on Monday. Joe?
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including all the World Cup celebrations across America and the globe ahead of Sunday's final. It's Spain staring down Argentina for a mega matchup that football fans have been waiting weeks for. First, though, after the break, why experts now think some simple iceberg lettuce could be behind the explosive outbreak of that stomach-stirring sickness. The latest from the FDA and what it could mean for your next late-night fast food run. Stay with us. Back now with a major development in that multi-state cyclosporiasis outbreak. NBC News has learned the FDA is investigating a possible link to iceberg lettuce produced by a major national supplier. Yesterday, Taco Bell announced a voluntary recall of some potentially impacted lettuce from its restaurants. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson joins us now with the very latest. Ann, good morning.
Morning, Joe. This cyclosporiasis outbreak has American health officials working overtime. This morning, we're learning iceberg lettuce supplied to Taco Bell is potentially at the center of a probe by health authorities looking for the source of that nasty parasite that can cause extremely serious stomach issues. In the wake of a major outbreak connected to a parasite found in produce, Taco Bell moving quickly to remove the questionable lettuce from its menus, saying in a statement, the affected ingredient from our supplier is being indefinitely removed from our supply chain nationwide. It comes as NBC News has learned the FDA is investigating iceberg lettuce sold to Taco Bell by Taylor Farms as a potential source of the cyclosporiasis outbreak. Overnight, the FDA saying its traceback investigation has identified a single supplier of iceberg lettuce from Mexico that was used by Taco Bell locations. The foodborne illness can cause weeks of severe intestinal distress.
I felt like there was a lead ball in my stomach.
Jessica Murphy-Smith is one of more than 4,300 people in Michigan who've gotten sick. She says she ate bagged salads at least once a day and also had Taco Bell.
I realized about a week before I started feeling sick, I had a cheat day and I went to Taco Bell and had 2 tacos.
And there was lettuce on those tacos?
Yes.
So far, the lettuce has only been linked to 5 states, mostly in the Midwest. But it's believed nearly 7,000 people across 34 states have been sickened.
I don't think that the work is done, but that's why I call it the beginning of the end. Unfortunately, we'll see more cases as that all plays out. But hopefully, we're over the rough patch once we've identified the main source.
So far, there's been no official response from Taylor Farms. As for Taco Bell, it says it has taken precautionary action and is encouraging all relevant restaurants, retailers, and food service operators to do the same. And Joe, doctors say the risk of getting this illness is not over yet. They still recommend thoroughly cleaning your produce. But the good news here is that health officials are starting to track down a potential source, which puts them closer to preventing more diseases. But keep in mind, the incubation period for this illness is 2 weeks. So we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination.
People might have had this lettuce a week and a half ago who could be getting sick in the next
Exactly.
few days. All right, Ann, thank you so much. For more on the outbreak, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, good morning. As we heard, the FDA is investigating iceberg lettuce from Taylor Farms as a possible source of the outbreak. First, just kind of walk us through how can a parasite like this end up on the produce in the first place?
Yeah, well, so it can happen really any time or place on the chain of production of this kind of produce. And remember, it all starts with contamination from human waste. And that can happen in the irrigation or wash waters. It can also happen if there's poor sanitation during the harvesting or processing of the produce. And we know, unfortunately, that the parasite is a pretty stealthy organism. It can survive on raw food for quite a bit of time.
And because it's stealthy, I mean, just how long can it survive on the lettuce? And we keep talking about washing it. Walk us through why that does help reduce the risk and just how much you need to wash it to reduce that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So Well, this parasite can actually survive on raw produce for weeks and even up to months. It does so because it creates this hard shell of protection, kind of like an armor around the bug itself. So even refrigerating is not going to kill it. Cooking up to 158 degrees Fahrenheit will, which is very, very fortunate. So we're not talking about things like using chlorine or any other type of cleaner. That is not recommended. What's actually recommended is physically, manually scrubbing the surface of your produce with either your hand or a vegetable brush, running under cold water for at least 1 minute to remove that organism in its entirety. And certainly with the big heads of lettuce that are recommended as opposed to pre-washed or pre-packaged, you're removing the outer layers and then cleaning what's underneath.
We just heard there in Ann's report. I mean, the risk is just clearly not over yet. And so people might be wondering, when can I go back to feeling comfortable eating fresh produce? Is there worries that it could go beyond lettuce? What's your advice to people?
Yeah, and I think we all face this dilemma every time we're choosing something at the grocery store. Can I do carrots? Can I do this? I think if you keep in mind that the vast majority of produce that's available in the United States today is safe, just let's remember that. You need to be aware of health alerts. So if you're in an area of the country where there's so many cases like in Michigan and or you're immunocompromised, you're going to be a little bit more careful. But think about buying whole foods that you could maybe peel the outer layer. For example, peel the outer layer of a cucumber, peel the outer layer of an apple, bananas, things like that. You're going to be much, much better off. And again, I think the biggest thing now that they've identified, at least for this, we don't know that these are all from Taylor Farm all across the country. We see Cyclospora every single year. But certainly at this point, I think if you're choosing a lettuce, you're choosing the whole head. You're not choosing the prepackaged, pre-washed at this point.
Okay. Dr. Azar, thank you so much. Appreciate having you with us. We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a high-profile Democrats' threat to quit the party over the issue of Israel. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us with more. Julie, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Let's start there in Washington, where Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman says there is just one issue that could cause him to switch parties: Israel. Fetterman told NBC News if Democrats officially become the anti-Israel party, he's gone, though he didn't say whether that means he would become a Republican or an independent. It's worth noting his approval rating back home is pretty weak right now. Israel, though, has become the top issue, Joe, dividing Democrats, the progressive base pushing party leaders to cut off aid to the country. You saw that play out in the House this week. Nearly half of Democrats, including former Speaker Pelosi, voted to cut off funding for the Jewish state over voter outrage about Israel's handling of the war in Gaza after the October 7th terrorist attacks. Now, also in D.C., Trump's pick to run the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Erica Schwartz, you see her there, had an intense round of questioning this week. She's seen as a vaccine-supportive, fairly conventional choice, and she served as Deputy Surgeon General in Trump's first term. But she couldn't say whether she was aware of or backed several of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s vaccine policy changes. He'd be her boss. The CDC has been without a permanent director since last summer, and the agency, as you can imagine, has been quite busy right now dealing with a growing parasite outbreak in the U.S. And finally, over at the White House, a truly bizarre one for you. Gabriel Perez, who is a longtime teleprompter operator for President Trump all the way back to 2016, he's on unpaid administrative leave. Why? Because he allegedly made more than $90,000 on the prediction market Kalshi by betting on what the president will say in his speeches. Kalshi reported all of this to the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and according to a source familiar, Perez is in talks to settle. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said yesterday Trump called the whole thing a disgrace and said Perez is currently not serving in the administration. Back to you, Joe.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. Disgraced former Congressman George Santos is finding new ways to stay in the spotlight. This time he's joining the TV show Special Forces, where contestants go through military-style challenges in a remote location. As NBC's Yasmin Vasugian explains, reality TV is a well-traveled route for politicians looking for reputational rehab.
Recognize that face? George Santos, the former congressman and convicted felon. His next gig, reality TV contestant, joining season 5 of the Fox show Special Forces World's Toughest Test. It follows celebrities taking on intense training, like a claustrophobic search of an underground bunker, led by a team of ex-Special Forces operatives. This season, premiering in September, will see 15 celebrities deploy to Malaysia. Santos confirming his appearance in a post saying, "I took my fat behind off the couch and tried something new, and it changed everything." It comes just months after the disgraced congressman was released from prison. President Trump commuting his 7-year sentence for wire fraud and identity theft. Santos is no stranger to wearing different hats, or at least saying he has. You might remember he lied about where he went to college, his career on Wall Street, even being Jew-ish.
I'm Jewish.
Ultimately, he was kicked out of Congress in 2023 over ethics violations before his conviction. We've seen plenty of reality stars turned politicians.
You're fired. This is my first apology in about 24 years.
Now, reality TV perhaps becoming a venue for reputation rehab, so to speak. It's been a second act for some exiting politics. Who can forget former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer on Dancing with the Stars? And Anthony Scaramucci took a stab at Special Forces in 2023.
Gosh!
Sarah Palin even had her own show on TLC. But Santos has a steeper hill to climb.
I'll be back.
He'll join fellow contestants like NBA player Matt Barnes and actor Ruby Rose on the upcoming show. In the end, we'll see who wins the ultimate test of physical, mental, and perhaps political resilience. Yasmin Vasugian, NBC News.
Good news for anyone who just isn't ready to give up soccer after the final World Cup match on Sunday. Major League Soccer has officially returned. It is the league based here in the U.S. and Canada that features plenty of star athletes like the GOAT, Lionel Messi, who plays for Miami. But after the men's team came up short on the world stage this year, some American fans are questioning the future of the sport here. NBC's Jesse Kirsch takes a closer look.
This summer, the U.S. men's national soccer team had fans hoping this could be the year. But their crash out in the round of 16, bringing back a very familiar question. Why do the American men always come up short?
And I'm looking at their history of ineptitude. And I got to tell you something right now. It's not something to brag about.
A sports-loving country of more than 340 million people that cannot find the right talent for the Men's World Cup, even as the American women are 4-time champs. Some believe the answer to that baffling problem begins at an early age.
It's one thing to kick the ball around in your backyard, but if you want to do this in a competitive youth league, according to the University of Georgia, that could cost you as much as $10,000 in a single year.
Millions of people play soccer worldwide, many with little more than a ball. But in the U.S., soccer has become a big business with state-of-the-art facilities, travel, and top-notch coaching. Those costs, and for some, a profit-driven model, mean kids from lower-income families may never even lace up soccer cleats. Even former American superstar Landon Donovan weighing in on the debate.
And think about how many kids you're missing out on in this country because they can't afford to play the game.
The reality is it's expensive to play most competitive sports in the U.S., whether it's football, ice hockey, baseball, or basketball. In the soccer sphere, Major League Soccer clubs now fully fund elite youth teams, emulating Europe's academy system, which invests in young talent. But some say the problem goes deeper to our cultural fabric. America is known for a hyper-competitive spirit out of the gate. Meanwhile, Norway's fun-first model all the rage after the team made it to the World Cup quarterfinals.
In Norway, sports are oriented around a concept they call idrettsglede, which means joy of sport.
Analysts pointing out how the small country churns out winners not only in soccer, but at the Olympics as well. And there's another challenge in the U.S.
If you were in a country where they didn't have the NFL to look up to, the MLB, the NBA.
I think I'd have a load of kids at all my trials.
Josh Kirk leads the coaching staff for Pinecrest Premier Soccer Club, a youth club in the Miami area. Even in South Florida, where Lionel Messi has been rocket fuel for soccer's popularity, the sport is still playing catch-up.
The popularity of soccer, it's in the United States, truly hasn't been taken by storm the way that many of us would have anticipated.
Still, Pinecrest Soccer Club's president, Manuel Escobio, says they're growing and winning without leaning in to pay for play.
You personally make how much money off of this job?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero.
The club is a nonprofit, and while its most competitive program can cost up to $3,500 per year, it offers financial aid, so any kid with skills can hopefully play at a high level.
For us, its real success is measured in how they continue to grow as people once they leave Pinecrest.
One of Pinecrest's 14-year-old goalies says he's experiencing the club's focus on his development.
My goal is to play college with a scholarship.
And we put him to the test.
It's pretty good.
Maybe a long way from taking on the likes of Argentina and Spain, but if this group is an indicator, the future is looking bright. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
Watch out for Jesse. All right, coming up, with the millions of World Cup visitors to the Americas, are sure to come some shady actors looking to scam. So when we come back, a warning over credit card skimming operations taking root in major cities, how you can keep your private information on lock. That's next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. As the summer travel season continues, experts are warning credit card scammers are going on the offensive, targeting highly populated areas with skimming machines and other less visible tactics, trying to steal your information. Here's NBC News business reporter Allie Canal.
From World Cup crowds to America 250 celebrations, millions of people are expected to pack streets, airports, and tourist hotspots across the country. And investigators say so are the scammers.
It's a huge fraud. It's worldwide. It's an epidemic.
Secret Service Special Agent Matt McCool is leading the operation to fight these crimes and protect your personal data.
Do these moments when there's just a lot of tourism, a lot of activity, is that when these scammers go on the offense?
Absolutely. There's going to be over 1.2 million estimated tourists coming in for the FIFA World Cup, right? And then billions of dollars of money. So they're taking advantage of that. There's definitely an uptick. We're seeing it.
In a recent 3-day operation with the NYPD, the Secret Service says they recovered 35 credit card skimming devices, preventing an estimated $36.5 million in fraud losses.
Investigators say ATMs just like this one, or even checkout terminals inside stores, can be fitted with these skimming devices in just seconds, attached with nothing more than some strong double-sided tape.
And if you see something that looks just a little off, if something's crooked, if something's scratched, don't use that one.
Cybersecurity experts say large crowds can also create opportunities for newer digital payment scams, including something known as ghost tapping.
Ghost tapping is a form of contactless fraud where someone attempts to initiate a tap and pay transaction without your approval. So think of it as modern day pickpocketing.
Scammers can carry a portable payment reader hidden in a bag or a pocket. And if your phone isn't protected properly without things like Face ID or a password, they can attempt to initiate a contactless payment without your approval. Experts say stay aware, store cards in an RFID blocking wallet, set up Face ID, and sign up for transaction alerts. As scammers continue to evolve their tactics, so too does the mission to stop it.
What is your message to the criminals out there that are conducting these scams?
We're on to you. We're going to find you. We're going to arrest you. And we're going to hold you accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
Allie Canal, NBC News.
One of this year's most eagerly awaited movies, The Odyssey, finally opens in theaters nationwide today, and it is already being hailed as a cinematic masterpiece. NBC News correspondent Kaylee Hartung sat down with Academy Award-winning director Christopher Nolan, who wrote and co-produced the groundbreaking film. Kaylee, good morning.
Hey there. Christopher Nolan loves a challenge. That has been clear with every film he's made, from The Dark Knight to Oppenheimer. But he says it wasn't until now that he could take on this epic. So the award-winning director is taking us inside the daunting task of bringing The Odyssey to the big screen.
Tell me what you remember.
A wife, a son.
Homer's epic, nearly 3,000-year-old poem is set to be a summer blockbuster. The Odyssey, starring Matt Damon and an A-list cast including Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland, and Robert Pattinson, tells the story of the heroic Greek warrior and king, Odysseus.
Action!
Bringing it to life has been a dream of director Christopher Nolan's for 2 decades.
So after 20 years, what took you so long? Why now?
Now I can get something made that I couldn't otherwise get made. And so for me to take on Greek mythology on a big modern cinematic canvas, something that hasn't been done, there's so much in it for everybody. It's a love story, it's a coming of age story, it's a story about war and homecoming, and I think that's the eternal appeal of the Odyssey.
Let's go home.
Odysseus is on a 10-year journey home after the Trojan War, sending the cast and crew to 6 countries, including Morocco and Iceland, shooting months on rough seas.
You told Matt in one of your first conversations that this would be hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. At what point do you feel like he really understood what you meant?
I have a feeling he didn't really understand it until we got on the boat. It's not until you get there and you start, hiking up a goat's path to the Cyclops cave that you start to realize, wow, yeah, none of this is going to be easy. I think it was a sort of slow creeping realization for him.
You pushed the limits here, but what limits did you hit?
I definitely hit the limits of my own stamina and everybody's stamina, I think. I mean, it's the Odyssey. Of course, it should be difficult. We're not doing the job right making a film with the Odyssey if it doesn't seem difficult.
It's the first Hollywood production shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film. Nolan felt that technology would help make audiences feel a part of Odysseus's mythical adventure.
This is a format that can put you in the cave with the Cyclops or on the deck of Odysseus' ship in a way that no other imaging format can. For the Odyssey, I went to IMAX and I said, look, if ever we were going to fulfill this dream of shooting the entire movie that way, this is the one. This is the Odyssey. And so for the first time ever, I finally, realized that dream of doing the whole film that way.
Hollywood is forecasting more than $1 billion worldwide. IMAX screenings started selling out nearly a year ago. You've said in the past, you've been well rewarded for having faith in the audience. Mm-hmm. What is the faith that you were asking this particular audience to have?
I think with the Odyssey, you're really saying to the audience, come and experience, honestly, one of the great adventures. So really, what I'm asking audiences to do is come and be entertained. Be hopefully a really phenomenal time having a big screen experience.
We had to wait 3 years between Oppenheimer and the Odyssey. Will we have to wait another 3 years for your next masterpiece?
Oh, at least.
Though several of the actors were working on multiple projects while shooting the Odyssey, Nolan only does one movie at a time. And as far as he is concerned, the film is not finished until it goes to an audience. So today is, in Nolan's own words, an exciting moment, but very nerve-wracking. Back to you.
All right, Kaylee, thank you. And the Odyssey is distributed by our sister company, Universal Pictures. Coming up, whether you're heading out to watch the Odyssey or maybe want to watch something at home, never fear, it's Friday. That means we've got your front row seat to the latest and greatest from the world of Hollywood. Everything you simply can't miss this weekend. Next. Finally this hour, it's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't miss list to look at all the movies, shows, and even some music you need to see and hear this weekend. Joining me this week is David Correa, entertainment correspondent and host of the Husbanter podcast. Good to have you with us. Let's pick up where we left off moments ago. The Odyssey, we know it's getting great reviews. It's Christopher Nolan. We talked about the making of it, but what should we know now that it's finally out and hit theaters?
Well, it's getting a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. It is, in fact, an epic, right? Christopher Nolan, we know, loves a long movie. Mm-hmm. This one's about 3 hours long, but you have to have it. It's the Odyssey, and with a cast like this, you're fully invested in it. Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Tom Holland. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And fully produced in IMAX, one of the first films, if not the first film, to do that. This is truly something you cannot miss.
I have to say, for the Odyssey, 3 hours feels kind of short. So look at it that way. I mean, if
right.
You read it in college. All right. So if you're going to stay in and let's look at the streaming services, we have something called Lucky. It is on Apple TV. It has Anya Taylor-Joy. She's on the run, right?
She is on the run. She's a con artist that is running both from the FBI and organized crime. Everyone might remember her from The Queen's Gambit. She's a fantastic actress. It is a limited series, 7 episodes, 2 episodes out now on Apple TV. New episodes come out on Wednesday. But my favorite, absolute favorite part is Annette Bening.
Oh,
She plays the crime boss in this.
Okay.
And she is having the time of her life playing a villain. She's so good in it.
I could say everyone loves playing a villain. You talk to anyone who gets the chance to do that, and it's like just the ultimate thing. All right, let's talk about someone who's not a villain, who's one of our absolute favorites, Will Ferrell. He has a show on Netflix. It's called The Hawk. It's about a down on his luck golfer. What else should we know about this?
Well, he plays Lonnie the Hawk Hawkins, who was a one-time top of his career golfer who's trying to hang on, though he's decades past his prime. And now his son, played by Jimmy Tratro, is taking over and about to take over his legacy. And he's getting a little jealous. It's classic Will Ferrell. I love that he's getting back with Molly Shannon, with Luke Wilson. If you loved Anchorman, if you loved Talladega Nights, you will love this series. Super easy to watch. Half-hour episodes, all 10 episodes are on Netflix right now.
I love a good half-hour funny show. So, and I also saw Fortune Feimster in there, who's absolutely one of my
She's
favorites.
the caddy. She's so funny.
Okay, good. I can't wait for that. All right, we have to talk about the groundbreaking show Heartstopper. It has been a series for the last few years. Now they've made a feature-length film to try and maybe tie up some of the loose ends about this amazing love story. What should we know?
Yeah, we're getting the chance as fans of the show to say goodbye to Nick and Charlie. It was an incredibly successful series. Season 3 got a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is the final bow. We are seeing them grow up and move on. There's one deep emotional question there, which is, can first love survive change? I say yes. I just celebrated 10 years of marriage with my husband.
There you go.
We've been together for 20 years. We met when we were about that age. So yes, it can survive.
It can. All right. That's good to know. We'll see what the movie has to say about all of that. But no matter what, you know it's going to be handled beautifully. All right, let's do a little bit of music here. Gracie Abrams is out. It's her third studio album. It's called Daughter from Hell. And she calls it her most personal work yet, which is saying something with that title. What should we know about it?
I mean, Gracie Abrams hit the scene, I think, 2019 and was a rising star. We can say that she has fully cemented herself as a pop star now. This is very indie pop. It's confessional style singer-songwriter. It's like diary lyrics. She really blew up when she joined forces with Taylor Swift, as most people would.
That'll happen.
She got a Grammy nomination for their song Us. She became nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys and then won Best New Artist at American Music Awards. This album is 16 tracks, out today, very deep, talks about growing up, fame, burnout, self-doubt, everything that like everyone goes through. It's fantastic.
All right, very good. A lot to do and to listen to this weekend. David, good to have you with us.
You.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. But don't go anywhere. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.